Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Whole Athlete Podcast, where I always love to bring new guests on the show to talk about ways you can improve performance and work on your longevity by taking care of your health from the inside out. And one of the big elements of the holistic method is gut health and digestion. And I found out about Just Thrive Probiotics earlier this year at the Natural Product Show and met up with Tina Anderson, who's on the show. She's the CEO and co-founder of Just Thrive Probiotics. Thanks, Tina, for coming on today and talking about your story.
Oh, thanks, Debbie. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, let's get started about why you created Just Thrive Probiotics. And we'll get into all about probiotics and gut health and digestion and how that's so important for performance for athletes of all levels.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I actually have an interesting career path. I started out as an attorney in litigation, and I did that for many years. And then I decided to stay home with my kids to try to, spend a little bit more time at home with my kids. And I was able to continue my legal career while I was home with my kids as in the pharmaceutical industry, in a family pharmaceutical business. So, and after being in the pharmaceutical industry for many years, my husband and I actually were in the business together, and we noticed many abuses in the industry. There was that rampant overprescribing of medications, and just that always we've seen doctors just turning to medications and focusing on treatment rather than prevention. And so, one example was we were actually awarded this really large contract for one of the largest hospital systems in the country for a cholesterol drug. And, we're all so excited, we're celebrating, and the pharmaceutical manufacturer came into our office and said, "Oh, this is great, we won this contract, but now my job is to go to every cardiologist in the system and get them to lower the number that they prescribe cholesterol meds." Mm-hmm. Yeah, in essence, they're lowering that number in order to prescribe more of their medication, which I'm sure you could relate to, and you met with patients that deal with that. So, there was such a part of me that was shocked, but then there was another part of me where a light bulb just kind of went off in my head and realized that this was just happening all around us. So, we had family members that started on one prescription. The next thing you know, 6 months later, they're on 12 different medications. And, we saw it with our kids, antibiotic after antibiotic. And so we just, and the scary thing is, or the ironic thing, and not necessarily scary, but the ironic thing is that we started in the pharmaceutical industry because we loved knowing we were in the health field and we were distributing life-saving medications to people. And of course, there's no doubt that there is a place for pharmaceuticals, especially in emergency medicine type of situations. But, we just didn't feel that it was a place to treat chronic conditions. And I'm a pretty deep thinker and read a lot of Wayne Dyer and Norman Vincent Peale. And both my husband and I, just believed we weren't doing our life's work. And so we delved into research and we started learning more about natural health and particularly gut health. And we were blown away by the impact that gut health has on our overall health. And this was actually shortly after the Human Microbiome Project was conducted by the National Institutes of Health. And we learned so much. We found out that gut health is related to virtually every aspect of our overall health. And that's just being at the right place at the right time. And by saying a lot of my daily affirmations and lots of prayer, we were given the opportunity to license the exclusive rights to these Bacillus spore-based probiotic strains from London University. So, and that was sort of how Just Thrive Probiotic and Antioxidant was born. And it's been one of the most gratifying and rewarding journeys of my life. And I'm just even more excited to see what's ahead for us.
It is growing field as more and more research comes out about the importance of the gut biome. And we've had Karan on the show twice now. And I just always love listening to the science. It's fascinating how talking about, your fat cells or anxiety, depression, and, just having that leptin and ghrelin resistance. It's just amazing how much goes on with just helping the gut. So let's kind of start talking about the product. Just Thrive is a spore-forming probiotic and antioxidant. How does that work to help our intestines be more healthy, to help our overall wellness and well-being?
Yeah. Spores are really the next generation of probiotics. They've been used for over 60 years, so they're not really new. They're just new to the U.S. supplement market. They're actually the most well-studied strains of probiotics out there. And so the difference, a spore bacteria is, we call it spores because they have this endospore shell around itself. So it's not like a mushroom or a fungus type of spore. It's actually just a bacteria that has this endospore shell around itself. And when it has this endospore shell around itself, it's actually dormant. So these strains were found in the soil. If we went to a very clean environment, let's say, tribes that live in Tanzania, they live off the land, and they have that bacteria in their soil. It's found in there, and they're found in the soil in spore form. So they're dormant. And it's not until you swallow them and they hit your intestines that they take that spore shell off. And that's when they become live vegetative bacteria. So, and the best part about that is that most probiotics are not surviving. I mean, they are very sensitive organisms. They don't ever make it to the intestines alive. With the spores, they naturally get to the intestines alive. And once they get there, they stay there for about 21 to 28 days, where they go to work, getting rid of pathogens in the intestinal tract and creating compounds and nutrients to feed our good bacterial organisms in our gut. So very, very effective approach to gut health. And we're not reseeding the gut, we're reconditioning the gut.
And I think that's so essential to understand the importance of why we need to recondition the gut, because of the foods that we're eating. But also, I continue to say, I think every day, it's not just what you're eating, but how you are eating, because your digestive system is going to be basically shut off. If you're eating super fast and you're stressed out, multitasking, you're shutting off digestion. So even those people are eating a whole food, nutrient-dense food plan, that they're eating also stressed out and rushing and doing 50 things at once. But then those people that still have digestive issues because they're eating processed foods, the vegetable oils, refined sugars. So all of this creates havoc in our gut, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we could be eating as healthy as we want, but if we're not absorbing nutrients, all these healthy foods we're eating are not being absorbed. All the nutrients aren't being absorbed by our gut microbiome. So it's really important that, we are eating healthy, but that we're also, we don't have inflammation in our gut, because when we have inflammation in our gut, then we are not absorbing the nutrients. It's not you are what you eat, it's you are what you absorb. And then the other thing is that when you have a leaky gut, we could eat all the kale and, great fruits and vegetables that we want to, but the bottom line is if those healthy foods are seeping into our bloodstream because we have a leaky gut, they're creating havoc in our gut. So, it's important to eat healthy, but it's really important first and foremost to take care of our gut health. I always call it ground zero for overall health.
Mm-hmm. So by reconditioning the gut with a spore-based probiotic, what exactly is going to happen in our gut when we do that? What does that look like?
Well, the easiest way, I feel like the best way to explain it to people is that, so if you envision a garden and the garden's been stepped on and trampled on and there's weeds growing all over that garden, and you kind of analogize that to your gut, your intestines. And so your intestines have pathogens all over. The good bacteria is in small amounts and it's very diminished. You go back to that garden, and these strains, you throw the seeds in the garden and they get there 100% alive. They attach to the soil in the garden, and they have the ability to get rid of the weeds, and then they have the ability to bring those plants that have been stepped on and trampled on back to life. So this is an extremely effective approach to taking care of our own, garden of our microbiome. These strains actually have the capability of going in and creating antibiotics to help kill off kill off pathogens in the gut. And then they have the ability to create compounds and nutrients to feed the good bacteria in our gut to make them, outweigh the bad bacteria. So very, very effective approach to taking care of our gut microbiome.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how much goes on in your gut, how much nutrients are made from that. So feeding your gut, getting the diversity from feeding your gut, those spore-based probiotics, but then how we, repopulate, recondition, and you're actually creating more, the B12 and the different vitamins and butyrate from that growth and feeding the gut. And what happens after that, you get more vitamins are made down in your intestines.
Right, exactly. We're increasing the production of short chain fatty acids, B vitamins, K2, all of those things are being produced in the microbiome. And so when you have a nice healthy microbiome, they're more readily being produced.
And that's what's funny, because so many people, I got, was reading your information you guys were handing out at PaleoFX for the K2 and how important it is for athletes and how low people are getting and don't even realize there is a vitamin K2, first of all. There's the fat-soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K, and the K always gets ignored and forgotten about.
Right, exactly. No, K2 is, we should definitely talk about that. So we have our probiotic, Just Thrive Probiotic, and then we have our vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 is it's a very essential nutrient that's, pretty much non-existent. Most people are deficient in it, and it's not, you can't find it in foods in the Western diet. So we are seeing, and when people are taking huge amounts of vitamin D, which, of course, vitamin D is, it's kind of like the darling of the medical community. We are actually increasing our body's demand for the vitamin K2. And we have an interesting study on vitamin K2 showing that it actually increases cardiac output by 12%. With our formulation, we have a study on that. So we know vitamin K2 is incredibly important for heart health and bone health. It activates proteins that allows it basically directs the calcium to move away from arteries where we don't want it and put it into the bone where we do want it. That's the role of vitamin K2. But a study that we did on this actually showed that it increased cardiac output by 12%. So really, really important to be, focusing on supplementing with vitamin K2 or eating the Japanese food natto.
Yeah, and I have never had that, so I'd rather just get the vitamin.
I know. The way I've heard people describe it, I'm not interested either.
So talking about the delicate balance of the intestinal and digestive flora, how it can be so disrupted and because of eating high sugar. And I think a lot of people and endurance athletes and, sprinter, short distance athletes are doing need higher carbs, and endurance athletes do more low carb, high fat diet, I think, for a lot of people, but if they're fat adapted. But anyways, eating too much processed foods, fried foods, and you're also saying glyphosates, chronic stress, aging, lack of sleep, medications, exposure to toxic chemicals, all of that, which is most everybody, can disrupt your gut health. And people don't realize, as we're saying earlier, it's, eating good foods is part of it. But as I call it, the holistic method is, the sleep is so essential, and that stress level and just so much of the toxins in our environment are really impacting the microbiome.
Yeah, all of those things you mentioned are wreaking havoc on our gut. They are the biggest offenders of gut health. Antibiotics that we take, antibiotics that are in our food supply. I think a lot of people, obviously, we're starting to be more aware of the fact that we shouldn't be taking antibiotics for every little thing. But the bottom line is antibiotics are in our food. And we know the antibiotics kill the good bacteria, but they're also they're killing the bad bacteria, but they're also killing the good bacteria. And glyphosate and Roundup that is in our foods, that's actually worse. We actually are doing a study on the effects of glyphosates and Roundup and how these bacillus strains, the spore-based probiotics, are actually reversing that damage. But glyphosates are actually, like antibiotics I was explaining, kill the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. Glyphosates only kill the good bacteria in our gut. So, it's even worse. So, the glyphosate is a huge, huge problem. So I always encourage people, people are like, oh, this whole organic thing, it's real. I mean, it's real. We have to be eating clean food as much as possible. I know it's not possible to eat it all the time. It's virtually impossible if you eat out. But the nice thing is now we have we've got these spores that are actually helping reverse some of that damage. But stress is a huge, huge factor, huge offender of gut health. And like you said, sugar, and of course, high intensity athletic performance. I mean, it's great. It's great to be athletic, but it does cause a stress on the body, as we know. So those are all things that are affecting the health of our gut microbiome. And now we know that the health of our gut microbiome is virtually tied to every type of disease out there, and non-communicable type of disease. So really important to be taking care of our gut health.
So how does the stress impact the gut biome? What have you found that research?
Well, it's just stress. High intensity causes inflammation. And so that inflammation, there was a study done showing that inflammation is actually causing leaky gut. And it increases like leaky gut in athletes, actually. So, and then of course we have a leaky gut that increases chances of autoimmune, it increases chances of getting sick more often, and that type of thing.
Yeah, it goes on. That's why I say it's a domino effect once it starts. And that's what my book, Life is Not Its Race, it's now 3 years old, but it's just so much more to add to it because it is domino effect, living life as a race, as I say. And I'm doing a seminar on Jimmy Moore's low carb cruise in a few weeks that I keep talking about how chronic stress impacts the whole you. And it's really the big part of it is how much affects or impacts your gut health and leads to leaky gut. And leaky gut leads to that inflammation in your body and autoimmune issues. And of course, we talk about leaky brain and the brain fog memory issues. So it is just having people to slow down and reset, reboot their system is so essential. Also, when they're eating, like I have some clients that are eating what they should eat, but they're eating really fast and they're overeating and speed racing through their meal to get onto the work day or whatever they're in the middle of, and they're multitasking. So it's just so funny how disruptive we are to our gut health without even really being aware of that.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, lifestyle is just so important too. We feel as athletes, we feel like we're doing good things for ourselves, which we are, but we have to remember that lifestyle is such a huge factor of it. And we need to just slow down in life. And, we started this business with the idea of just bringing health to the world. I mean, it's so much fun to hear these life-changing stories from our customers and moms who have had children with issues and people who have just changed their lives that have more energy now and all types of things. I get so excited about bringing this out there. But even myself, I started working too much and I'm like, what am I doing? Here I am working crazy hours and never having time for anything of myself. And I'm like, I can't do that anymore. I mean, we could all do lots of therapies, but the bottom line is we have to change our lifestyle to a certain extent too, and just slow down eating, like you said, slow down with everything in our life. So much easier said than done.
I know I've been writing that in practicing my speech I'm giving and writing a new ebook. It is, it's if you have that personality, if you're a type A go-getter, overachiever, it's so easy to slip back in that role and take one step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward. It's just part of who I am. So I always have to all right, I'm doing it again, stop and go back and take a break. So staying on topic of Just Thrive, I'd like to talk a little bit about the gut restoration program, how it can help heal a leaky gut by taking a probiotic. And then I want to share some of the myths of probiotics because it is a spore-based. And a lot of times people think we need to have this refrigerated probiotic that has 1,000 plus different strains, 24, 50,000 strains. So talk about how it helps leaky gut, and let's remember to go into those myths because I think there's a lot of them we need to get into.
Yeah, sure. So we know that leaky gut is basically the tight junctions in our intestinal lining that are opening up. And when they open up and LPS toxins seep into the bloodstream. So LPS toxins, LPS stands for lipopolysaccharides, and they're a toxin that really is not problematic in the gut. it's not until it seeps into the bloodstream that it becomes very problematic and causes this constant inflammation. And so we know now that LPS is a major driver of heart disease. It's a major driver of Alzheimer's. It's a major driver of virtually all non-communicable diseases. So diabetes, dementia, cancer, I mean, you name it. We know that LPS is so what's the word I'm looking for? Horrific when it goes into your bloodstream. And when you have a leaky gut, when the tight junctions are opening up, there's nothing you could do. Those toxins seep into your bloodstream. So we knew that the spores actually created a protein that would help seal up those tight junctions. And so that's why we did this leaky gut study. And we found that after 30 days of the spores, no other dietary or lifestyle interventions at all, just the spores, it reduced the LPS toxin level by 42% over a 30-day period. And we have a 90-day study that's going on right now. So we are seeing some pretty dramatic things. So we know that the spores are actually, sealing up the tight junctions and sealing up that leaky gut. So really, really powerful. And that's really what we need to be doing, is sealing up that leaky gut with a spore-based probiotics in order to, achieve health and wellness. And then to answer some of your questions about some of the myths, there are so many myths out there about probiotics. It's actually, it's almost like swimming upstream a little bit, because people have just been ingrained of certain myths and, what is a good probiotic. And a lot of that, it was not ill-intended or anything by anybody, any other brands. It's just that it was based on what we used to know. I think I had mentioned earlier that the Human Microbiome Project was done by the National Institutes of Health. And we learned more about the gut than we ever knew before during that study. And basically all the probiotics out there are based on what we used to know, the old understanding of the microbiome. And now we know more than we're still learning more. It's so exciting. We're at such an exciting time knowing how important the gut is on our overall health, the impact it has on our overall health. But one of my favorite myths you mentioned is a good probiotic needs to be refrigerated. I mean, I hear that all the time. People will say, oh, I don't want to take that because my doctor told me make sure you get one that's refrigerated, and I always, think about that. And I say that if a probiotic needs to be refrigerated, it's because it can't withstand the room temperature of the store shelf. So if it's on the store shelf, it would die. And so, because it can't withstand room temperature. So how in the world would a live bacteria survive your body temperature, which is much warmer at 98.6 than the room temperature of the store shelf? And the answer is they're not surviving. They pretty much die. And, people say, but I don't understand. I've taken a probiotic and it helped me. And you're saying that it was dead bacteria. Well, yeah, it was dead bacteria. And there are studies that show dead bacteria will give you some symptomatic relief, but they are arriving dead in the intestines. They do not arrive alive. And companies know this, so they enterocoat them. But even if they're enterocoated, they actually will never, they'll hit the bile salts in the small intestine and they'll die from the bile salts, or at least the majority of them will. And we've studied this. I mean, we have a study that took the leading selling probiotic with 50 billion CFUs. It died 99.99%. There's another independent third-party lab that has tested, I think, hundreds of probiotics brands out there, and they die off. And then the study that was done by Silica Labs actually tested yogurt and Greek yogurt. Both died off 99.99% by the time they got to the intestines. So, and that's because they're live cultures, they're live bacteria. But if they're alive, when you take them, they will be killed by both the temperature of your body as well as the acid of your stomach. They'll die off. And so you're really just getting dead bacteria therapy in those situations.
That's a good point, that the probiotics, if they have to be refrigerated, I never thought of that way. It's like, all right, what's the temperature of your body when it goes into you swallow the pill, and then what's going to happen with the body, the temperature, but also your stomach acid is ideally, which most people is not acidic enough, is supposed to be 1.5 to 3.0 pH scale. So if you're not having this very acidic stomach acid going on where everything should be going through and filtering out the toxins through there, if it doesn't bypass that first wash, it will only get through the next phase into the duodenum, into the small intestine, and continue on to the large intestine. So I don't know. Yeah, how does it even get there? You never even think of that until you start researching, learning from you guys.
Right. And then the spores, the way, like I had said, they are dormant they're dormant in the capsule, and they're dormant when they are found in the environment. They're dormant when you swallow them. It's not till they hit the intestines that they take their spore shell off and they become alive. And then they go in and they start, colonizing, and they stay there for about 21 to 28 days, where the majority of other probiotic strains out there, they get into the intestines and they pass through similar to food. These actually colonize for about 21 to 28 days, where they go to work, working to clean up your microbiome. So very, very effective approach to maintaining your gut health.
Do you take them every day then and take them for 28 days and stop, or what's kind of the dosage and recommendation for the servings?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, I do take it every day. The reason I would recommend that people take it every day is that every day our gut is being attacked. We just talked about many of the offenders that we are faced with on a daily basis, from glyphosates to stress to chemicals, toxins in our environment, sugar. All these things are just wreaking havoc on our gut on a daily basis. And I say that even with kids, especially because I feel like kids, they were brought up in a world of glyphosates and Roundup. And I wasn't necessarily, I didn't see this rise of food allergies and autism. I didn't have that with my classmates when I was a child. But now you see that, kids, everybody, there's always somebody in the class with food allergies, with, autism, different ADD, ADHD. All of those things are because our gut is so out of balance right now. So anyway, I take it on a daily basis. I always encourage everyone to take it on a daily basis because they were meant to be taken on a daily basis. These are the same strains our ancestors, when they were pulling their roots and tubers from the soil, they were getting these bacteria from the environment. So this is a very natural process for us to be taking these types of strains on a regular basis. Excuse me, I just got it in my throat. But if people, of course, want to do a maintenance dose, that's certainly fine. You could do a dose of, maybe one every 3 days or something like that, but one every other day, one every 3 days. But I would definitely encourage you to take them on a regular basis because, back to that garden analogy, I think of the gardener of the gut. You want somebody in there always kind of getting rid of the bad guys and, the bad bacteria or the bad weeds, and then helping the good plants come back to life. So we're kind of the daily gardener of the gut. So yeah, I would definitely say to take it on a regular basis.
Yeah. So the 4 strains in Just Thrive are, well, I won't say, you can say the names, but there's not lactobacillus is what we were saying earlier, that's what people have in all these probiotics in the stores and the refrigerated sections. And you think that is the best one because that's what everybody sells. But I learned at the conference the other month is that the lactobacillus is used so much because it's cheaper and easier to use, and it's not as effective, obviously, because you look at your research and out there on the gut biome. But talk about the strains that are in here. I'm just looking at Solid Note, thriveprobiotic.com. You guys can read all about it, but just touch on that for a moment.
So we have 4 very thought out strains. They're Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus coagulans, Bacillus clausii, and Bacillus indicus. And they were found in nature together. That's why those are the strains that we use. They have a very synergistic effect on the gut microbiome. One of the strains in our product is Bacillus indicus, actually produces RDA levels of carotenoids. So once it gets to the intestines, it starts to produce alpha and beta carotene, lycopene, lutein, astaxanthin, zeaxanthin, all at the site of absorption, which is in the intestines. So really the most bioavailable type of antioxidants on the market because they're being produced exactly where they need to be absorbed. So, and the researchers actually believe that this Bacillus indicus is the key to the leaky gut findings because we know that oxidative stress is a major driver of leaky gut. And now we have these antioxidants that are combating that oxidative stress in the gut. So very, very thought out formulation. we purposely did not put any lactobacillus and bifidobacter strains of probiotics in our product because we know that they are poor survivors. They have difficulty ever getting to the intestines alive. And just to be defined as a probiotic, the first part of the definition is to be a live microorganism. And most of them are never live. They never get to the intestines alive. And then they need to confer a benefit onto the host. So ours actually, we know that they go there and they actually have the ability to colonize and get rid of pathogens and bring the good bacteria back to life.
We've said that a few times, and I think that's really good to enforce. That's the main benefit, I think, and the difference of Just Thrive Probiotic spore-based versus the regular ones out on the stores. And that's why I've used this product for last year I saw it and started using it with clients. And it's amazing how I've got so many clients taking it because it's helping their gut health. And I think everyone has leaky gut at some level because I don't know how you don't in our society.
Yeah, exactly.
But just going back to, you mentioned about kids, and I just am very interested in sharing this information with people with kids because the amount of anxiety, depression, but also ADHD, the focus, ADD, all that going on with our children today. I don't have kids, but I have clients and watch kids and train kids. And it's just pretty amazing to me, the amount of issues. And I would think kids would benefit from taking this daily as well as even like I have a client that's an 8-year-old that's having all these issues. And I think gut health is always great to start with children as well as adults.
Yes, I could not agree with you more. As a mom of 3 kids, I always think, thank God every day that I was able to, that my kids are taking this every day. I have 2 kids that are in college. They're both college athletes. And so it's like, I think to myself, oh my God, thank goodness that they are on these strains and they were able to combat all of the, college stuff that goes on, all the bad stuff that happens in college. But I think with kids, it's really become like a personal passion of mine is just to have kids, to have kids be taking these because like you said, all of the mental health issues that are going on and then, kids with ADHD and different anxiety. Kids with anxiety is out of control. And what they don't realize, 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. All these neurotransmitters, dopamine, these are all being produced in our gut. And nobody thinks to start there. Not a lot of people think to start there. They go to their doctor, they get some medication and then you see all the other side effects that happen. And that's really one of the main reasons, like I said, we got into this business because we saw what would happen. You'd go on one medication, then it caused, you get on an anxiety medicine and then it causes depression. And then you get on other medicine and then it causes stomach issues. And then you're on antibiotics for your skin health. And then that causes leaky gut. And, it's like you have it's just a cascade of effects. And I feel like kids nowadays are just, they're popping Advil so easily and they're doing all this stuff. And I just would encourage people to start with the gut and, take a spore-based probiotic and start seeing what happens. And do other natural remedies, of course, because all these other natural remedies will work so much better when your gut is not inflamed and being taken care of. But, I would love to see more kids on this on a regular basis. And we are going to be launching a liquid probiotic. So it's the same formulation as Just Thrive, our regular capsules, but it's just going to be an easier delivery system. But if people want to give it to even, young babies, toddlers, all you need to do is open the capsule and mix it with food or just put a little bit on a finger. You could have a baby suck on your finger and they could get it, or a mother who's nursing, they could put it on their breast and the baby could get some of the strains, maybe a quarter of a capsule. But for kids that, are old enough to eat and stuff, you could open it and mix it with food. I used to put it in my son's piping hot oatmeal on a daily basis, but you could actually bake with them. We've actually tested them up to 455 degrees. So you could even put them in cookies if you want to, just sneak them in there. So
low carb, not sugar.
That's right. That's right. So
not flour.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think I do in my coaching program, the holistic method, where I coach people how to take care of the whole them, is that I add, bone broth into the program and let's get rid of the anti-inflammatory or get rid of the inflammatory foods and eat more anti-inflammatory, and just working on the stress. And I think all the elements of the holistic method are really designed to help transform the whole you from the inside out, as I say all the time, because we start with healing and treating the gut, but it's also what you're eating, how you're eating, what you're absorbing it. But you need to take a supplement. And that was the next question, was a lot of people's like, why do I have to take all these pills? I don't want to take all this stuff. And why is it that we can't just survive not taking a probiotic as this and not taking digestive enzymes and HCl supplement? Why do we need to take all this stuff?
Yeah, I know. I wish, of course, that's the best place to get it. But the problem is where we were getting these really important spore bacteria was from our environment and our soil, our soil is so depleted and it is lacking all of these bacillus type of strains of bacteria. So I agree. Like I said, that tribe in Tanzania that off the soil and the land, you wouldn't need to take a spore-based probiotic. You wouldn't need to take prebiotics. You wouldn't need to take any of those things because they would all be naturally found in the soil. But we don't have that anymore, unfortunately. So, and we just, our food is depleted of nutrients. And believe me, I'm a huge fan of getting our nutrients from good, clean food. We have a prebiotic that is amazing in our formula, in our product line. But I would always tell people, try to get your prebiotics from food, try to get it from prebiotic foods. But, some people don't do that. They don't eat those kinds of foods, and therefore taking a supplement is the best way. Unfortunately, for the bacillus strains, you are not going to find those in the environment, at least not abundantly in our environment that we live in today.
I know we're short on time, but let's talk about how they can order it, and then we take it with food. Because I know Karan was saying research is that to keep the LPS from seeping out into the rest of the body outside the gut wall lining, we need to make sure we have the supplement with our food to help that. Something with 5 hours, how it could LPS can escape. And I think that's really interesting, because I always think take them at night before you go to bed, but just with your main meal is an important part.
Yeah, the time of day really doesn't matter. It's just about taking it with your largest meal of the day. And just, it's super easy. You just take one, 10 minutes later or right after your meal. And whatever, I always say, like, whatever meal you're most likely to remember it at. And, what are your bigger meals is good. Because we know that the strains use the food to germinate throughout the intestines as well. So, really great thing. And then I know we're running out of time, but the one more myth I just want to mention is that the 50 billion, you had mentioned that the 50 billion is maybe better than 10 billion. And I think that's another huge myth. Doctors will say, oh, make sure you take a probiotic, make sure it has at least, 10 billion CFUs, or it's a 50 billion count product. And that is not at all based in science. There's no study that shows that more is better. More is only better if more actually gets there. But we know that, the study that was done by Silica Labs took a 50 billion count product and it died off 99.99%. So I just want to remember that, or remind people that there's no scientific backing in that type of argument that we should be taking something with more is better. What the focus needs to be on is the quality of the strains that we're taking. And we know that these bacillus strains have been studied separately as well as together. That's another thing. A lot of products out there they take one strain that they have in their product and base their whole marketing on one study that was done with one single strain. Our study was done on our formulation. So that's really, really important too. So don't get caught up on the big numbers. That's really become a marketing pitch. It's not based on science at all. So, but yeah, take it with food, one a day. I always tell people to go slowly, start with a half a capsule. You could go just a half a capsule or one capsule every other day, just because sometimes people will experience some die-off. And if you're experiencing die-off, don't get scared away. That's a great sign. That just basically means that strains are doing what they need to be doing, but we don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. So we always just say to go to a half a capsule or a full capsule. And then, after about a week.
But the die-off, just go back there. So if you're dying off, is that just killing the dead bacteria that are dead, or what is die off? And does that mean you have diarrhea?
Yeah, right. What it means is it's getting rid of the pathogens, and that release of the pathogens may cause some minor gastrointestinal discomfort. So it could manifest itself as diarrhea, it could manifest itself as gas or bloating or constipation. but it's a temporary thing. And I'm telling you, if it does happen to you, it's even more reason to stick with it because it's telling you that you've got some bad bacteria that you're really getting rid of. So most people are fine just starting with 1 capsule a day. I just mention that because I would hate for somebody to start it and have some gastrointestinal discomfort and think, oh no, this isn't working for me, because that is exactly the person that needs to be taking it even more. So
I think that I've had people take it and they're like, oh, I don't think this is good for me. I've got something like, no, it means it's working.
Yes, it's like a great sign, but I never want anyone to be uncomfortable, especially, on our products. So, but I say to go slowly to avoid that entirely.
Good. And then I had all these other questions, but I know we'll have to do another show, talk about the prebiotics and more about K2. I think would be a great show to do because I think people should learn about that for athletes. But you guys make sure you go to thriveprobiotic.com is a website. And I would also look at the prebiotic drink mix you can have in the afternoon. And then the vitamin K2 7 is really interesting for athletes. I just got another bottle for myself and adding that into my daily blend to help my health and get a little more energy going in my workouts and recovery. Because I'm all about performance, but I keep talking on the show. It's more important the longevity that what you're doing right now isn't going to create too much oxidative stress, which seems to be related to every chronic disease is coming from the oxidative stress.
Exactly.
Those radicals.
Yep, I agree. But yeah, I'd love to talk about K2 one day because it is so important for athletes, especially.
Yeah. Well, look at the website. It's got great information and videos and anything else we want to put, any links people can go to, social media, blogs.
Oh, yeah. You could at Thrive Probiotic on Instagram or Facebook if you'd like to learn more. But our website has a lot of great information out there. I mean, we got lots of blog posts and lots of great information. Sign up for our newsletter because we're very much, we talk about our studies. We have a lot of podcast interviews that we've done or Karan has done. And we also have just, great content. So I would definitely recommend doing that.
Good. All right. And then we'll put all the links in the show notes and we'll see if we can do the whole athlete code for you guys to purchase some supplements and see what you guys experience. I know my clients after, a week, some people feel different. So 30 days for sure. And let's work on healing that leaky gut, especially if you are an athlete in racing. You want to make sure you improve that gut health because that's going to improve your performance as well as longevity. So
yeah, and Debbie, I'll put in we'll put in a coupon code of Whole Athlete 15 for a 15% off coupon. How's that?
Ooh, that's perfect. Yeah, you guys take advantage of that because you definitely want to try this. Is the research I keep talking about? I wrote a blog about PaleoFX conference in Crohn and Dr. Zach Bush talking about all these toxins in the gut biome, and that's glyphosate and LPS. It's just new research, and we got to learn more about this. And if you really want to feel better on the inside and out, this is what you need to add into your routine each day, your arsenal.
Yep. Ground zero.
Manage your stress and take care of your gut.
Lifestyle and take care of your gut and you're golden.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Tina. We'll be in touch. We'll have you on the show to talk about the K2 for performance.
Sounds great. Thanks, Debbie. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.